Today is Thursday, January 18th. We got plenty of NBA games today. Quick recap of yesterday: we hit our day one ladder day challenge with LaMelo Ball and Isaiah Stewart. So we're on to day two, which brings me to my top two picks today. The first one I am going with is Vince Williams, and I'll be taking his fantasy score at 27.5. John Morant is already out for the season. Jaren Jackson is usually the go-to guy for Memphis, but Vince Williams has been stepping it up in the guard and forward position. His points is also good. He's been averaging a little bit over 15 points in the past couple of games. As you can see, his minutes has been increasing as well. I'm going to be taking his fantasy score at 27.5. He does get a lot of rebounds. He does get blocks and steal potential as well. So you can see his past couple of games, he's been crushing his fantasy score. So I'm going to be taking it right now since it's at respectable at 27.5. If his production keeps going, it's going to go well over 30 in fantasy score. So at 27.5, it's good value. Should be a competitive game against Minnesota, even though I still think moneyline Minnesota will win this game. So I'll be taking Vince Williams Jr. over fantasy score, and I'll be pairing it with Kevin Werther. And for him, I will also be taking his fantasy score. His production has also gone up. Should be a good game against Indiana. Fast pace. So at 20, still good. You can be averaging over 20. He had a big game against Milwaukee, 44.5. He does very well against good teams and bad teams as well. So overall, he's a good player, a good role player to Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox. So I'll be taking his fantasy score at 20. If it gets bumped to 20.5, I still think it's going to go over. 21.5, that is your discretion. But I like it at 20, so I'll be taking the over on that. And that is my day two of the ladder day challenge. So let's head on over to my five-man. And if some of you guys might have gotten a Prize Picks protected play, I was fortunate to get one. So this is my protected slip. I did a five-man. So let's get started on my five-man, which is Rudy Gobert. He is going to be my top pick for this five-man. For him, his fantasy scores in play, his rebounds, points, PRA. I like his defensive rebounds. He's been averaging by 11 or 12. Obviously, he has a ceiling of 20 rebounds. Going against Memphis, Memphis doesn't have much size. So I'm going to be taking Rudy Gobert at 9.5. I think this is going to get bumped to 10, actually, closer to game time. So right now, we're fortunate to get it at 9.5. His rebounds was just recently bumped. Before I started this video, it was at 13. It is at 13.5. This has stayed at 9.5, so this is good value right here on its defensive rebounds. My next four will be fantasy scores, and my next one will be Colin Sexton. He almost made it to my Ladder Day challenge. You can take his points. I want to be taking his fantasy score here. His points and assists is also good. Fantasy score at 29.5. He has a ceiling of 40. Should be a good game against OKC. So I'll be taking his fantasy. Next up for fantasy, I'll be taking is Keegan Murray. And I'll be taking his fantasy at 30.5. Been averaging the mid-30s. Going to be a high, fast-paced game, so I think he's going to get close to 40. I'll be taking the over on his 30.5. My fourth leg will be Karl Anthony Towns. And I made Karl Anthony Towns on another slip on his points. I think he's going to go well over his points. But for this slip, I'll be taking his fantasy score at 38.5. I really do like his points. You can substitute it for that as well. So these two are very good value to go over. And my last leg I'm going to go with is Lauri Markkanen. And I'll be taking his fantasy score at 41.5. He's been going over in the 4 of the past 5, and his past 10 has gone over 8 of those past 10 when his fantasy score is at 41 or higher. I'd say it's going to be a competitive game. I know Utah's not having a great season, but they should put up a good fight against OKC. So those are my top 5 picks. Remember, Karl Anthony Towns points or fantasy are good. Those are options. And if you need a 6th leg, the one I did look at was Scotty Barnes. His fantasy score is way too low. He was in the mid-40s just a couple weeks ago. He's all the way down to 38. Given the game against Indiana, I think he's going to have a pretty decent game to go over his fantasy score, and it's at 38, I believe. I think they just took his fantasy score off. Yes, they did. They did take off Scotty Barnes' fantasy. It was a good value at 38. Pretty sure that's going to get bumped since they took it off the board. Price Picks is on it. But these are the 5 I like. So mix and match. Pick your favorite. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Appreciate the support. Hopefully we hit. Tomorrow is Flex Friday. Hopefully you guys do have the protected play today. So you got some free rolls for today and tomorrow. See you guys in the next one.